ցանկանում եմ գնահատել այս միջոցառման այն բաղադրիչը, որը արտահայտված է ձեր մասնակցությամբ։ Առհասարակ մենք ընտրությունը կատարել ենք այնպիսի երկրների, որոնք կարող են իրենց ուրույն հետաքրքրությունը տեսնել այս մեր քաղաքականության, արտաքին քաղաքականության մեջ, խաղաղության խաչմերուկի, համագործակցության խաչմերուկի տրամաբանության մեջ եւ ձեր ակտիվ մասնակցությունը արդեն իսկ խոսում է ձեր երկրների հետաքրքրությունը, հետաքրքրության աստիճանը, ապացուցում է այն այս մեգանախագծերի մեր տարածաշրջանում տեղի ունեցող զարգացումների մասին։ Ուստի այս առումով նույնպես շնորհակալ ենք ձեզ, դա արդեն ցուցիչ է ձեր երկրների, ձեր դիրքորոշման, ինչի համար նույնպես շնորհակալ ենք։ Փորձենք ներկայացնել մեր գործընկերներին, բանախոսներին, Արաբական Միացյալ Էմիրություններից Abdulrahman Alhaddadi, ռազմավարական հետազոտությունների եւ ուսումնասիրությունների կենտրոնի հանրային ծառայության ոլորտի բաժնի ղեկավար, այնուհետև Իրանի Իսլամական Հանրապետությունից Իրան եւ Եվրասիա հետազոտությունների ինստիտուտի ավագ գիտաշխատող պարոն Վալի Kalejiին, Հնդկաստանից պարոն Rajorshi Roy, Մանոհար Պարիկարի պաշտպանական հետազոտությունների եւ վերլուծությունների ինստիտուտի գիտաշխատող, Թուրքիայի Հանրապետությունից պարոն Օğuzhan Akyenerը, Թուրքիայի էներգետիկ ռազմավարությունների եւ քաղաքականության հետազոտական կենտրոնի տնօրեն, եւ տիկին Laura Lindermանը, Միացյալ Նահանգների արտաքին քաղաքականության խորհրդի Կենտրոնական Ասիայի եւ Կովկասի ինստիտուտի ծրագրերի հարցով բաժնի տնօրեն, ողջունում եմ ձեզ, հուսով եմ ստեղծագործական եւ հաջող փոխհմբռնելի, օգտակար մեր քաղաքական իշխանությունների համար զրույց կարող ենք ունենալ մեր թեմաների շուրջ։ Մեր ռեգիոնը, մեր տարածաշրջանը միայն այսօր չի, որ այս նշանակությունը ունեցել է Հարավային Կովկաս տարածաշրջանը, առհասարակկովկասյան տարածաշրջանը, այն սկսած դեռևս Հռոմեա-Պարթևական ժամանակաշրջանից իր նշանակությունը, իր աշխարհագրական դիրքով, իր բնական հանածոներով, ռեսուրսներով, ինչ նշանակություն, որքան ինչ նշանակություն, ինչպիսի նշանակություն ունեցել է, այնքան էլ նրա նկատմամբ մարտահրավերները մեծ է եղել։ Տարբեր տերությունների կողմից, տարբեր աշխարհաքաղաքական ուժերի կողմից։ Դա նույնը կրկնվել է նաև միջնադարում, ուշ միջնադարում։ Եվ տարածաշրջանային, արտատարածաշրջանային ուժերի հետաքրքրությունը, երբեմն նաև այս տարածաշրջանի համար ռազմական բախումներով, մրցավազքը, պատերազմների միջոցով այս տարածաշրջանին տիրելու փորձը հանգեցրել են նույնիսկ ճակատագրական հետևանքների։ Այս տեսանկյունից մենք միշտ եղել ենք ճգնաժամերի, շարունակվող ճգնաժամերի եւ ներքին եւ արտաքին մարտահրավերների մեջ։ Այսօր բացառիկ հնարավորություն ունենք արտահայտելու այն քաղաքական ցանկությունը մեր ներտարածաշրջանային առաջինը հարավկովկասյան երկրների առաջնորդների կողմից արտահայտված, դրան աջակցող նաեւ տարածաշրջանի տերությունների քաղաքական ցանկությունը, որը նույնպես գնահատելի է, նաև արտատարածաշրջանային այնպիսի ուժեր, որոնք ունեն որոշակի հետաքրքրություններ տնտեսական, քաղաքական, գիտական, ենթակառուցվածքների, այն ոլորտները, որոնք կարող են պարբերաբար փոխվել, բայց միևնույն է, տարածաշրջանը, տարածաշրջանի երկրները իրենց նշանակությունը չեն փոխում։ Ուստի այս տեսանկյունից կարևոր է բացահայտել հետաքրքրություն ներկայացնող նախ այս տարածաշրջանի էությունը, երկրորդը ինչպիսի երկրների այն հետաքրքրում եւ ինչ համագործակցության հեռանկարներ կարող է այդ երկրների եւ մեր տարածաշրջանի երկրների միջև ձևավորվել։ Փաստը երկու օր է այդ արձանագրումները կան, որ դեռևս տարածաշրջանը հարավային Կովկասի հավաքական որպես քաղաքական միավոր կամ իրավական քաղաքական որպես միավոր այն դեռևս կայացած չէ, բայց ունի հնարավորություն տնտեսական գործիքակազմերով, ենթակառուցվածքների ոլորտում համագործակցությամբ, գուցե նաև անվտանգային ընդհանուր միջավայր ձեռք բերելու համար ունենա ընդհանուր շահեր, գտնեն այդ ընդհանուր շահերը եւ համագործակցության ցանկություն արտահայտող երկրների հետ կարողանան կամուրջներ ստեղծել։ Այդ կամուրջներից մեկն էլ որպես եւ հնարավորություն եւ նաեւ որպես միջոց ենթակառուցվածքների զարգացումն է։ Մենք այստեղ մի հետաքրքիր խնդրի նաեւ պետք է ուշադրություն դարձնենք, ենթակառուցվածքների զարգացումը, հարաբերությունների զարգացումը մեզ համար միջոց է, թե նպատակ, գլխավոր նպատակ։ Այ եթե մենք դա փորձում ենք դիտարկել միայն որպես միջոց, դա ժամանակի ընթացքում կարող է փոխվել։ Բայց եթե փորձում ենք այն վերջնանպատակ դիտարկել, ապա նրա նշանակությունը ավելի է մեծանում։ Ուստի մեր հարաբերությունների կառուցման, զարգացման, խորացման տրամաբանության մեջ պետք է այս խնդրին ուշադիր լինենք։ 2000 տարուց ավել մենք փորձությունների միջով ենք անցել այս տարածաշրջանի մրցակցային նշանակության պատճառով։ Չունենք այլևս այնպիսի ռեսուրսներ, Իրանն է եղել, Հռոմն է եղել, չգիտեմ, Թուրքիան է եղել, Ռուսաստանն է եղել, բոլորի համար կռվախնձոր է եղել այս տարածաշրջանը։ Խոսքը միայն Հայաստանին չի վերաբերում, Վրաստանին չի վերաբերում, առանձին կամ Ադրբեջանին չի վերաբերում։ Տարածաշրջանը ուզում է ժողովրդին էլ նույնիսկ եթե մենք փոխենք, միևնույն է տարածաշրջանի նշանակությունը չի փոխվելու։ Ցավոք սրտի նաև դրա ականատեսն ենք եղել։ Էթնիկ քարտեզն է նաև տարածաշրջանի փոխվել, բայց տարածաշրջանի էությունը դարձյալ էլի չի փոխվել, նրա նշանակությունը էլի չի փոխվել։ Այսինքն այստեղ մենք պետք է խնդիրը այլ բանի մեջ տեսնենք։ Ուստի կարծում եմ մեզ հետ համագործակցելու ցանկություն ունեցող երկրները, արաբական երկրներ կլինեն, եվրոպական արմենիական երկրներ կլինեն, կենտրոնասիական երկրներ կլինեն, տարածաշրջանի երկրները կլինեն, մեր ճգնաժամը, մեր խնդիրները դրանք վտանգավոր են նաև իրենց համար։ Մեր տարածաշրջանի անվտանգությունը անհրաժեշտ է նաև իրենց համար։ Ուստի մեր տարածաշրջանի մասով կհորդորեի որպես զգայուն տարածաշրջան ավելի խոնարհաբար, ավելի հայրաբար, բարյացակամ եւ զգուշավոր մոտեցում դրսեւորել։ Մենք այլևս այլ նոր ռեսուրսներ չունենք։ Սպառել ենք ամբողջ պատմության ընթացքում։ Հիմա ձևաչափում մեր աշխատանքային մի որոշակի փոփոխություն են կատարել, ստանդարտ ձևաչափից շեղվելով, քանի որ ունենք պրեզենտացիաներ ներկայացնելու, հերթականությամբ այսպես կբաժանենք, Արաբական Միացյալ Էմիրությունների մեր ներկայացուցիչ պարոն Ալհադադին կներկայացնի, իր երկրի տեսակետները, ինչ հեռանկարներ կան, ինչ հնարավորություններ կան, ինչ խնդիրներ են տեսնում, այնուհետև հերթականությունը կշարունակենք պարոն Վալի Kalejiին Իրանի Իսլամական Հանրապետությունից եւ այնուհետև Թուրքիայի Հանրապետությունից մեր հյուրը Օղուսհան Akyener'i ներկայացած պրեզենտացիան, որից հետո մենք արդեն բոլորով կշարունակենք մեր աշխատանքն այստեղ։ Շնորհակալություն, խնդրեմ համեցեք պարոն Alhaddadi, ձեր տեսակետները, ձեր մոտեցումները կարող եք մոտենալ այստեղ։
Barov. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me here in this lovely country with this lovely nation. And I'm so happy to answer a very quick question, this quick presentation. I promise I will not take more than 5 minutes. So the whole idea of my presentation is to answer this question. How the UAE's principles of the 50 advance peace and prosperity in the South Caucasus? To answer that question, of course, we need to say what is the principles of the 50 that UAE has adopted 4 years ago. It is a guiding principle. It's a document that was adopted by the leadership of the country that consists of 10 guiding principles. And these 10 guiding principles was mainly focusing on the economy and how the economy will be the main driver of our foreign policy in the future, in addition, of course, to the investment in human capital, in connectivity, and also other areas. So to make sure that these principles are well enforced and coordinated by all the entities in the country, there was a presidential decree to make it binding for all the government bodies to enforce and to achieve these principles. So we can say that, and it actually was stipulated in the 10 principles, that the main objective of the UAE's foreign policy is going to be achieving the national interest, which at the top of it is the economy. And when we say economy, of course, we are not talking about the domestic economy. I mean, our economic relations with the region and beyond. So in order to achieve this 10 principles, we need to re-look at this map. We usually tend to look at the Middle East as our region. But in today's world, it is not. The regions beyond the Middle East, like the South Caucasus, Central Asia, for example, all these are becoming part of our region. That's why we look at beyond the Middle East. And in order to achieve this vision or these principles, we need geo-economic infrastructure like the connectivity and logistics, because you can't do business and trade with countries without having ease of doing business, without having economic corridors. Also, we need economic partnerships, which is hiding behind the seat, and also economic diplomacy. It has to be active all the time. And on the other side, also we need geopolitical infrastructure, which is the regional stability, because you can't do business in unstable region or flow of money and investments without having stability, and our investors can feel safe. So that's why the stability of the South Caucasus is crucial for us. And the active diplomacy, even beyond the economic aspect, I think that was maybe evident through the bilateral visits between the head of states of UAE and Georgia and Armenia and Azerbaijan as well, especially the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of interactions. And the third, which is hiding also behind the seat here, is the multilateral framework. Any cooperation between UAE and the South Caucasus should not be confined to the bilateral relations. It also should engage in also multilateral framework. So I was talking about a document and theories, but is there any applications of this theory? I think there is some materialization of these principles. UAE initiated a program called SEPA program, which is acronym for the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. And so far, Azerbaijan has become part of that program. In 2025 as well, the Eurasian Economic Union was being part of that program. Georgia as well. And also UAE became a dialogue partner for the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So all these facts are showing that there is a genuine interest from UAE to be economically present in the region, and also to use it as diplomacy and good offices to also make sure that there's stability in the region. And one of the good examples is hosting I would say, the historical meeting between His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Armenia, and His Excellency, the President of Azerbaijan. This is, in a nutshell, my thesis, I would say. And thank you so much.
Շնորհակալություն ձեզ։
Thank you very much for organizing this productive conference. Following with the severance of a land and rail connections between the Republic of Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan during the first Karabakh War, as you know, Iran's railway connection with the Caucasus region and also Russia was also cut off after the near 7 decades and 70 years. This route from Julfa to Nakhchivan had been one of the main corridors for Iran transit and trade with Soviet Union in both Pahlavi dynasty and Islamic Republic. And during Iran and Iraq war, the Julfa-Nakhchivan railway was very crucial, had a crucial role for Iran during Iran-Iraq war in 1980 decades, had a crucial role in export and import for Iran. Unfortunately, after 3 decades, our rail connection with region still not connect, and Iran remains the only country in the region without any rail connection to South Caucasus. And I think that it is clearly that why Iran support the peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. It is one of opportunities and disadvantage we lose in 3 decades. On the other hand, as you know, you see in the map, with the severance and cut off the connection between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan from Bilesovar in the terminal, border terminal in the Ardabil province in the northwestern of Iran, Azerbaijani citizens and cargo and trucks go to the Nakhchivan. And during 3 decades, all of Azerbaijani citizens, Nakhchavani citizens, and cargo pass these routes without any problems and restriction. And also, after the Second Karabakh War and return of Zangilan, Fizuli, and Jibrail region in the southern part of Karabakh to Azerbaijan, Aras corridor is under construction from the Aghband in the Zangilan to Julfa, from a closer route which replaced, in fact, which will replace to Bilesovar routes. As you know, this is under constructing between Iran and Azerbaijan. Therefore, the Bilesovar Nakhchivan route and also Aras corridor indicate clearly that Iran has no objection to Azerbaijan direct access to Nakhchivan. On the other hand, during our northwestern borders, Iran has six border crossing and terminal with Armenia, Azerbaijan, 5 terminal borders with Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan, and one border with Armenia in Northwest Megri border. We need to all of these borders. We need to all of these terminal borders for diversification of transit routes in the South Caucasus. We need to all of them. Not different between Armenia and Azerbaijan in our approach to transit and transit corridors in the region. For example, in Astara point in between Iran and Azerbaijan, one truck crosses every 7 minutes. One truck in every 7 minutes in the Astara point, the terminal borders. And in Northwest Megri terminal borders between Iran and Armenia, 78,000 trucks pass annually. We cannot ignore these capacities for our transit with Azerbaijan and Armenia. You know that we, in our Armenian South Northern Highway in Armenia, which Iranian companies participate for construction of this route is very important for us, as well as Azerbaijan route. And you know that from the Rasht Astara is the Gazvin to Rasht finished is the construction, and Rasht to Astara we try to connect with rail connection to South Caucasus, and you know Russian participate and investment in the rail connection, and also in both of North-South corridor and Persian Gulf, Black Sea corridor, both corridors are important for Iran. North-South corridor from India, Iran, Azerbaijan, and Russia, and Persian Gulf Black Sea corridor from Iran, Armenia, Georgia, Greece, and Bulgaria. And therefore, we need to all of these routes and corridors. But regarding the peace agreement between Iran and Azerbaijan, between Azerbaijan and Armenia, especially the route from Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan. There is mostly criticism, but I believe that criticism is not enough. We should find a solution to solve the problem, to reduce the concerns. Unfortunately, we only criticize. This route treat Iranian border, Iranian common border with Armenia. What is the solution? What is our suggestion for Azerbaijan and Armenian government to reduce this concern? I have, according to three Iranian expectation, I have three suggestions in the conference. Iran's first expectation is that in order to preserve the integrity and security of Iran-Armenian shared border, the planned communication route connecting Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan through Armenian Syunik province should, as much as possible, be located away from Iran's border and constructed in areas farther north of Iran-Armenian border. The southern part of Armenian Syunik province, due to, according to its geographical features and presence, this region had not any population. After Megri there is not a population. Therefore, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers far away from Iran borders. It can't be built. It can be, and it may be it can be a confidence building step and measure for Iran and Armenian, especially for Iranian government, and reduce Iranian concern. Iran's second expectation is that the design and technical engineering specification of this route ensure that Iran-Armenian transit corridor is not cut off, blocked, or disrupted. In this regard, constructing an overpass or bridge at the intersection where the Azerbaijan-Nakhchivan route in the east-west and with Iran and Armenian routes from the north-south, especially from Megri to Gapan. It's very important. I think three separate overpass or bridges could be designed and built. One bridge for passing cars and automobiles, one bridge for rail, and one bridge for gas and oil pipelines, electricity transmission, and fiber data. And three bridges can also reduce Iranian concerns for in our Iran and Armenian common border.
Պարոն Kaleji,
This is my last. Iran's third expectation is that the scope of activities and authority of the joint Armenian-American companies, which will be responsible for overseeing, controlling, and ensuring the security of the Azerbaijan-Nakhchivan communication route in the southern of Armenia, in accordance with Armenia's national laws and regulation, should be strictly limited to that route, not Iran and Armenian route. In fact, the authority of this joint company must not be extended to Iran and transit and communication route, especially at the intersection of the two routes. This restriction is essential to ensure that no interference, restriction, or control by this joint company extend along Azerbaijan-Nakhchivan routes imposed on passport checks of Iranian citizens, stopping our inspection of Iranian trucks, our Iran's transit traffic to Armenia, particularly along the Norduz-Megri border crossing in the Syunik province up to Yerevan and parts of the country. I stop my remarks here, and there are another points that I will address in the next session of this panel. Thank you very much.
Շնորհակալություն։ Կխնդրեինք հիմա մոտենա այստեղ Թուրքիայի Հանրապետության մեր հյուրը, պարոն Akyenerը, համեցեք։
Thanks very much. Initially, I want to thank to our moderator and the organizer of this event. It's very important. It's very nice to see too many different distinguished speakers and attendees. And I can see easily there is a good civil diplomacy environment here. Thanks very much again. I'm going to show you today some maps, and I'm going to make a presentation. I say this route as the peace route or the middle corridor, or in some countries maybe we can give different names. However, the peace route can be more acceptable for all sides, and I'm going to show you some projections. Of course, our main goal, our aim here is the peace, and if we only construct a peace on the political trends, while the political trends change, it will fall down. But if we can construct a peace on the consciousness of the societies, it's very important, on fidelity and mercy, the peace will be stable. However, in order to be able to make this, I think we have to construct a more stable economic environment, and we have to show the long-term projections. And for a sustainable peace environment, we have to make, if we can construct a sustainable peace environment, we will follow with more trade, more integration, more logistics, more tourism, less military expenditures, also this is important, and less fear, less tensions, etc. And also we will follow with more development in the region, welfare and security. Now I'm going to show you our test pumps long-term projections. Hence, the globe is changing, the global dynamics is changing. You can see, maybe you cannot see the below pictures. However, you can see the GDP per capita estimations for the long term. You can see United States is the leader. Let me skip to GDP PC, GDP per capita. Estimations, but actually you cannot see the countries here. However, I can say that easily. Generally, European Union countries have stable but slow growth. Asian countries, rapid growth. African countries, very fast growth. And the Turkic world, I'm including the Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan inside this. Very high growth rates. And here, actually, you cannot read the countries here. United States is the first column, you can see. The second one is Australia and blah, blah, blah. This is again the GDP PC. By the way, the colors, the first one is this year. The last one is the 2100, the last one, for example, let me mention. This, the first one, is today. The other 25 years later, the other 25 years later, similarly. The last one is the 2100. This is a long-term projection. And according to this projection, you can see the largest growth rates of different countries. Kazakhstan, as you can see, has an important growth rate. Turkmenistan also has. India and China, you can see. You can see our calculations regarding the Turkic world. You can see how the dynamics is going to change. This is important, hence these countries are going to use this route, this new route. Anyway, this is the population. Again, you cannot see something. However, in this case, of course, there are too many different cases during these calculations. However, in this case, we can easily show that the general population trends. However, I have to mention that all Turkic countries' populations are increasing. This is important, and India is increasing. This is important. And regarding with GDP, we have initially checked the GDP per capita, then population. Now we are on GDP. Regarding with the GDP, you can see that. But also, this is important. The first column, this one is United States GDP, and the second one is China. If United States will not be able to make something to change these balances, China will grow with an unstoppable level. But by the way, we haven't taken the United Nations population estimations, long-term population estimations. I think they are not so coherent. Anyway, that's why now we can easily face with in the global dynamics that there is a huge conflict with China and United States. We can understand this. And sometimes all of the regional countries has to be part of these conflicts. This is an expected opinion. By the way, regarding with the growing economies, as you can see that Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, these are the high GDP growth rate evaluations. You can see India and China has a very high growing, increase in growth rates. And Turkic world's economic growth rates are increasing very highly. And this is also our scenarios for Armenia and Georgia, you can see. But these are the peace scenario projections with by integrating peace into the region, into increasing the trade balances. Of course, both Armenia and Georgia has experience on economic growth. But of course, we have just told Mr. Gavok this, the population decrease is important. We have to solve this. Also, this is also for Turkey. Anyway, regarding with the United States-China conflict, we can say a new type of Cold War. And for the global leadership, you see social, political, cultural issues, logistics, human resources, natural resources, military, technology, economy. Under this natural resources, rare earth minerals are very important. This is important, don't forget. Regarding with this corridor and with the peace corridor and regarding with the new projects that we can do together, natural resources, economy, and logistics are affected, can be affected through these studies and new ventures. And these are some projects that our official organizations in Turkey prepared. As you know, we have invested too much money on different logistic infrastructures. However, after the peace activated, of course, border crossings, railways, high-speed railways, some highways, additional infrastructure, some data infrastructures, and in addition to that, additional energy infrastructures can be organized. Now, I know time is, I have a very limited time, but this is the 2050s gas demand in European countries that we can reach through Turkey. Anyway, I don't have enough time to explain the details, but we have a potential, and inside this potential, let me read the number, we have a potential to supply in 2050s around 194 BCM annually. There is a potential in European Union side. And in the supply side, you can see we have studied this field by field. We know all the fields in all different countries. We know the development potentials. If we can develop the gas fields in this, you can see. For example, in Turkmenistan, we can take additional 65 BCM natural gas for export. This is the additional volume, not including the existing export potential. And for example, in Uzbekistan, it's plus 15 BCM gas. In Kazakhstan, 10 BCM gas. In Azerbaijan, in addition to the current production capacity, additional 15 BCM gas can be obtained in 2050s. And for Iraq, it's 58. This is out of this route. In Iran, it's 50. I understand, okay. And these are the demands for 80 BCM in Turkey. And this is for oil, crude oil. Additional production for Kazakhstan, 0.4 million barrels per day. And as you can see, for Turkmenistan, blah, blah. And this is for rare earth minerals. It's very important for during this conflict. And these are the Turkic countries which has some potentials on rare earth minerals, and I'm sure that we have additional potential. And as you can see, the global conflicts increase the importance of this region, and with a sustainable peace, there are plenty of advantages for all sides. And this new corridor, Armenia also will be a center for this new corridor. Energy can be used, as you can see, as a leverage for a sustainable peace attempts. And also Armenia's cooperation with the whole Turkic countries is very important. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. I'm really delighted to be here. It's been such a fascinating conference to hear the diversity of perspectives. So I hope I won't be too repetitive, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit for my remarks, which is, but agree with much of what has already been said. I think that the South Caucasus, as we've seen in vivid color, is being completely reshaped right now as new trade routes and partnerships emerge. So this fundamental reconfiguration of the regional connectivity, as my colleagues have actually vividly just shown in the presentations, and also yesterday, it's happening in real time as we see new corridors being planned and old alliances being tested. And Armenia in particular, the shift since 2020 is a practical response to a simple reality, which is the old security arrangements didn't work when tested. And to say it more plainly, many decades of Armenia being a loyal CSTO member and ally of Russia resulted not in much for them. So the real question, though, is not about picking sides. It's whether Armenia can make itself essential to multiple networks at once. And we've been hearing about these plans in very clear detail, and it's quite exciting, actually. I think for Armenia's security, being stuck between bigger powers can be a weakness if you're isolated, or quite important leverage as you're connected. So let me move quickly to talking about, as the American, the nature of the US-Armenian relationship. Of course, I'm not a US government representative, but I'll just speak from my perspective as a member of a think tank. And I think it's probably quite clear to all of you that US foreign policy is run at this moment on transactional approaches, not on grand long-term strategies. And so we see that there has been a failure in consistent plans, comprehensive plans that need consistent support across multiple administrations. But despite that fact, and despite the fact that my think tank ourselves has tried to put forward some comprehensive strategies for the region, a lot can be done with the transactional approach, and Armenia can use this to its advantage. The TRIP corridor is a particular example which ties development rights to corridor security and makes real stakes beyond diplomatic statements. So that means economic states, which is very key to Armenia using its geographic position as a strategic asset. So if Armenia can handle and will handle multiple routes at once, Iran to Georgia and to the Black Sea, also connecting Turkish markets to the middle corridor, and as we've heard, the increasing importance of Central Asia as far as GDP growth and population growth, it's only going to become more important. So it's really, really a wonderful location for Armenia to be where the north and south and east and west routes intersect, and it's a rare advantage. And there are not many places where these accesses cross. So I would like to an example could be the Indian goods, we'll hear from my colleague, moving through Armenia to Europe, Turkish products reaching Central Asia through Armenian territory, UAE money financing Armenian infrastructure. A lot of outside powers will suddenly care about Armenia's territorial integrity. Your borders become their business interest, and your stability becomes their economic concern. So the alternative is staying out of these developing networks, and that does not protect Armenia's independence. It guarantees its irrelevance. Without economic interdependence, Armenia is just a piece on someone else's chessboard rather than a player with its own leverage. And to conclude, I would say we're in a very important window of opportunity. Several things are lining up favorably for Armenia. The West wants alternatives to Russia and Chinese infrastructure. The region is focused on connectivity. The current US administration likes making deals. Russia is distracted. And there's real opportunity. I think also, I would just want to underscore my colleagues in the previous panel from Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan highlighted how they've used interregional connectivity in the C5+1 formats. That's something that could be a longer-term model for the Caucasus that I'd like to see here. So being realistic, conditions will not last forever. Priorities will shift, administrations will change, and regional dynamics will evolve. The windows of opportunities open and close, but now Armenia has and can have a strategy that aligns with economic interests that will improve also their security outcomes. And that means job creations, revenue streams, and partners in the region with genuine reasons to care about the stability of Armenian territory. So let's see how this goes forward, and thank you very much.
Հիմա կխնդրենք ներկայացնի պարոն Rajorshi.
Thank you, Dr. Davtyan, and I'll try to stick to the 5 minutes that you have given us. Now, right at the beginning, I want to thank the organizers for having me here, and also my compliments for organizing a very timely event. Now, in the last 2 days, we are almost at the fag end of this conference. 3 themes have stood out for me. The first is the normalization process. The second is the clarion call when it comes to establishing peace and prosperity in the region. And the third, which is relevant in the context of this session, is about reorienting and reimagining transport and investment, trade, investment, and transport flows. Now, the implicit message in all of this is the need for a fundamental recalibration when it comes to what has traditionally been regional fault lines, when it comes to geostrategic and geo-economic contestation and competition, and in this case, also the issue of strategic denial of routes, especially the access and the land routes of the region. Now, my focus is on strengthening connectivity between South Asia and Eurasia. But before that, I want to briefly conceptualize how the concept of neighborhood, which is being increasingly reinterpreted in the form of an extended neighborhood. Now, there are two ways of looking at it. First is through the principle of one's own centrality. Now, the problem with this is that it could lead to domination, be it political, economic, or military. In turn, that could lead to more of a pushback from the partner states who might feel aggrieved about potential financial or environmental exploitation and degradation. Now, the other way of looking at it could be using one's own centrality for the larger good. Now, here, issues such as respect for the environment, being demand-driven, and being financially sustainable come into the picture. Because at the end of the day, the logic and the theoretical underpinning of connectivity is that when you have improved connectivity, you help reap the synergies of connectivity through deepening of trade and investment flows between the contiguous regions. At the end of the day, it is not about the blurring of boundaries, but also about promoting linkages in culture, energy, people-to-people ties, and trade. And I think that is the reason why improving connectivity is seen as a vital strategic enabler of both intra and intra-regional cooperation. Now, I want to also focus on one part of connectivity, which is important for this region as well, which is about having more options, connectivity options. Because what it does is that it possibly creates a more stable regional balance of power. It gives regional countries options. It prevents dependency on any one particular source. Because we all know that when you're dependent, it gives rise to complexities as well. Now, when it comes to India, in the recent past, India has reconceptualized its concept of neighborhood in the form of an extended neighborhood, and Eurasia, including Armenia, is a key pillar of their strategy. It's a benign approach. It is predicated on the 3 C's, which is connectivity, cooperation, capacity building, and commerce. So that's 4 C's. And it is therefore unsurprising that India has sought to promote and strengthen the international north-south transport corridor, improve the bottlenecks, involve more partners on the globe, on the stage where Armenia could be a plug-in point as well, and also involve more regional stakeholders. Now, there are certain natural economic complementarities between the 2 regions. There are 4 distinct clusters: information and communication technology, energy, human resource, and trade. Now, I'm talking about the potential. It could be a win-win, mutually beneficial situation where majority of the South Asian countries get access to Eurasia and beyond to Europe, and the Eurasian countries get access not just to South Asia, but the wider Southeast Asia as well, because of the steps being taken to strengthen connectivity between South and Southeast Asia. So what that means is Eurasian countries could then be a part of the regional value chains of South and Southeast Asia, the 2 dynamic regions. And by including more countries, you are tending to increase its resilience, increase its durability, and making sure that it's much more financially viable. Now, just a word of caution here. Connectivity is one part of the puzzle. There are other aspects such as tariff, non-tariff barriers. You also need to have enhanced strategic cooperation between the stakeholders, where in this case, in this region, you need to perceive the borders as bridges and not as barriers. And that would involve building connectivity corridors that are not just durable, but also inclusive. Thank you.
Շնորհակալություն։ Դահլիճում ունենք հարցեր, խնդրեմ համեցեք։
Գործ Արուկյան, Հանրային կապերի եւ տեղեկատվության կենտրոնի տնօրեն, շնորհակալություն հարգելի պանելիստներ, հետաքրքիր զեկույցների համար։ Ես մի հարց ունեմ պարոն Akyenerին։ Ինչպես գիտենք, Թուրքիան պլանավորում է ներդնել մոտավորապես մինչև 3 միլիարդ դոլար Կարսից մինչև Իգդիր եւ այնուհետեւ մինչեւ Նախիջևան երկաթգիծ կառուցելու եւ Նախիջևանին եւ Ադրբեջանին միանալու համար Հայաստանի տարածքով։ Միևնույն ժամանակ Հայաստանը առաջարկում է օգտագործել իր երկաթգծերը, երկաթգծային ցանցը, սկսած Գյումրիից մինչև Երասխ, որը եւս միանում է շատ կարճ վերակառուցման արդյունքում հնարավոր է միացնել Նախիջևանին։ Եվ այս ամենը առաջարկում է Հայաստանը սեփական ծախսերով։ Այստեղ տրամաբանական հարց է առաջանում, ինչու ծախսել 3 միլիարդ դոլար, սպասել կառուցմանը մինչև 2029 թվականը, եթե կարելի է պարզապես հենց այսօր բացել սահմանը եւ ընդամենը մի քանի ամիսների ընթացքում կարծում եմ ունենալ արդեն պատրաստի երկաթգիծ, որով հնարավոր է իրականացնել բեռնափոխադրում երկաթգծային։ Շնորհակալություն։
Thanks very much for the question. As I understand, you mean that there is a plan to make investment around $3 billion to construct the railway. Your question is why it's going to be held on up to 2029. Am I right? Yeah, of course. As I understand, maybe these huge projects needs to be, for example, there are some diplomatic issues to be solved. Actually, there is an agreement signed, but it's a pre-agreement, not the final agreement that all sides agree on that. I hope as soon as possible we can solve all the issues and we can open all the gates and borders. Diplomatic issues is the first one. Then for example, you have to make too many different technical studies regarding with the location. Maybe you have to make ownership of the lands to construct such a road. In addition, you have to find the finance and put in the budget. It's a huge project. I think in 3 years, 3 years is a good, I think, goal to be able to complete.
Ներողություն, կարծում եմ հարցս մի փոքր սխալ ներկայացվեց։ Հարցս նա էր, եթե Հայաստանը հենց այս պահին առաջարկում է օգտագործել իր տարածքով Գյումրիից մինչև Նախիջևան երկաթգիծը, ապա ինչու սպասել 4 տարի 3 միլիարդ դոլար ներդրում անել, եթե կարելի է մի քանի ամսում արդեն բացել Հայաստան-Թուրքիա սահմանը եւ օգտագործել Հայաստանի երկաթգիծը եւ անմիջապես կապվել Նախիջևանի հետ։ Հարցի էությունը սա էր։ Արդյոք այստեղ աշխարհաքաղաքական հարցերը եւ խնդիրները չեն վերդասում տնտեսական պրագմատիկ շահերին։
Yeah, as I understand, actually I'm not a logistic expert, by the way, I have to say that, but I shortly understand the dynamics. If, for example, assume that we sign the agreement, we open all the gates and borders, then, for example, to start with, for example, by starting, existing infrastructures will directly be used as Armenia's existing infrastructure, Turkey's existing infrastructures. However, as I understand, the Turkey's long-term investment targets, like this 3 billion, is for example, the railroad infrastructure for higher speed vehicles is different with the existing ones. Maybe Turkey is going to initially construct the inner Turkey side section of that investment and connect the higher investment railroads. For example, after 2030, assume that we completed the new investment and Armenia's existing infrastructure is continuing. Also, there are some older infrastructures in Turkey exist. I think all the infrastructures will be utilized. However, for example, the tariffs for the new investments will be different. Tariffs for the old investments will be different. I think all infrastructures will be utilized. This is not geopolitical issue. This is, I think, technical point of view.
Բայց այնուամենայնիվ արկա գոյություն ունեցող թեկուզ հինը կարող է ծառայել, ինչև նորը կառուցվի։ Մենք չունենք, չենք օգտագործում, ունենք եւ չենք օգտագործում արկա մեր ունեցածը, բայց լրացուցիչ արդեն սկսել ենք ծախսեր կատարել պրոյեկտի վրա, որ չգիտենք, ընդհանուր առմամբ սա փաթեթային լուծում է դառնում։ Առանց թրիփի, ինչպես է Նախիջևան հասնելու նախեդբեռները եւ այնուհետեւ Նախիջևանից անցնելու են կողմ։
Actually, for example, after completing the new infrastructure, the old one will not be utilized. It's not right. And for example, in Turkey, we have too many different railways. For example, the older one maybe for more heavy and low speed issues for transportation issues are used. However, for example, for high speed railways, they are very different. For example, while traveling, I can see that this is the high-speed railway, this is the low-speed railway, the old one. I think both can be continued to be utilized. This is a technical issue, not geopolitical.
Գուցե, բայց այնուամենայնիվ կա օբյեկտիվ մի քիչ բան, որ դրա հետևում գոյություն ունի նաև քաղաքական ենթատեքստ։ Սա իհարկե մտահոգիչ է եւ կարող է ցուցիչ դառնալ հերթական անգամ, որ տարածաշրջանային մրցակցությունները շարունակվում են մեկը մյուսին հակասման տրամաբանությամբ։
Yeah, actually, for example, for such issues, I think maybe a new logistics center in Armenia can be constructed, and it has a strategic position. And in addition, for example, I couldn't mention, but in my maps, as you can see, there can be a new strategic base in Shangachal, Azerbaijan, and in the other side, Aktu and Turkmenbashi, new logistic base can be constructed, and one point in Armenia. Through that point, a Russian integration can be invested. Then from that point, the Nahchivan and Turkey can be followed. I think step by step, we have to follow all these issues. However, of course, we have to again remember that unfortunately the status of the peace has not finalized yet. But I hope it's going to be done.
Շնորհակալություն։